much, Tom, and thank you to the other speakers, and thank you to CND for inviting me to this conference, because it's important to make the links between nuclear expansion, war, and the rise of the far right and racism. These are dark times. Earlier this week, Shabana Mahmood warned of dark forces, but after her draconian announcement of restrictions on refugee and asylum rights, Starmer's Island of Strangers speech, and the hateful daily anti-refugee propaganda campaign that fueled the growth of the far-right demonstrations in the summer, I have to say, Starmer and Mahmood are part of these dark forces. Often refugees are a product of wars or military intervention that Britain has a direct involvement in, and a tiny minority of the world's refugees arrive in Britain. The vast majority are in the Middle East, other parts of Asia and Africa. So we must defend the right to asylum in Britain. We are also seeing the sharpest rise of the international far right than at any other point in the post-war era. For the first time in this period, the far right is leading in the opinion polls in Germany, France, and Britain. And in Britain, the level of support for the far right today is unprecedented. So we must build the fight back against this, and I'm very pleased that CND is part of the movement to turn the tide against the far right. We all know this, but it's worth underlining. Fascism's rise to power in the 1930s led to the greatest loss of life, destruction and devastation to humanity in World War II, and culminated in nuclear bombs being dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Congratulations to CND for your work in commemorating these catastrophic events, their impact on Habakashas, and the importance of learning from history. Today there is a far-right president in the White House, and Elon Musk gave an infamous Nazi salute at Trump's inauguration. And Musk's nuclear expansion ideas are so ambitious, they even extend to outer space. Remember him calling for Mars to be nuked a few years ago. And recently, Trump called for restarting nuclear testing and for South Korea and Japan to develop nuclear weapons. Just like AUKUS, this is about the encirclement of China. And as you know, back in June, the US also bombed nuclear sites in Iran. Military confrontation and the drive to war go hand in hand with a rise in racism. Wars in the Middle East, particularly Iraq and Afghanistan, over the last 20 years, and the genocide in Gaza have led to the rise in Islamophobia. The new Cold War and military escalation against China has led to a rise in racism towards Chinese and other East and Southeast Asian communities in Britain. Earlier this year, the Labour government announced £30 billion spending on nuclear expansion. Meanwhile, funding for the elderly, disabled people is cut. So Labour is sticking to Tory austerity and continuing the cost of living crisis. Real wages have declined for almost 2 decades since the 2007 financial crisis. And this is a critical difference between now and the 1970s, when we saw the growth of National Front. From 1970 onwards, real wages were increasing up until the 2007 financial crisis. The bailout to the bankers led to the massive increase in government debt, but it's the people who are paying for this through austerity. This is a political choice, and that's why racism, particularly attacks on refugees and migrants, is being used to scapegoat, divide, and distract. This economic catastrophe and toxic, hateful, racist campaigns have led to the unprecedented rise of the far right in Britain, with the rise of Reform UK electorally and the biggest fascist demonstration led by Tommy Robinson in history back in September. For the first time in Britain, a party to the right of the Conservative Party could gain power. And we cannot underestimate how dreadful this will be. If a Labour government can prescribe Palestine action, a Reform UK government could prescribe all of the organisations represented on this panel here today. So we must build the fight back against this, and the best response to the biggest fascist demonstration in British history must be the biggest anti-fascist demonstration in British history. Stand Up to Racism has been working with CND, the people and organisations on this panel, and a range of other organisations on building the biggest and best response to the rise of the far right. So look out for details on this. So solidarity and thank you.